That was me. No, just kidding. Was not me. Hi, everybody. Geoffrey Keezer here. I'm in my house here in New York, and it's really an honor to be here on Gail Boyd's show. Gail and I go back quite a ways, and yeah, I thought I'd talk a little bit today about some of the musicians that I have worked with and people that shaped my career and my life in so many positive ways. So I'll kind of start with, sort of go chronologically ish if I can. Well, I can just say quickly about my the way I grew up. I grew up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, a kind of medium small size town. The only child of two music teachers. My mom was a classical French horn player, and my dad was a percussionist, mainly jazz drummer. So yeah, was completely surrounded by music, from a very early age, and all of my parents' friends were all musicians, and that was the scene. Got my first professional experience playing in my dad's band. Had the original generation real book. Hey, Facebook user, I don't know who you are, but what's up? Thanks for the shout out. Yeah, I mean, that was how I sort of learned how to play this music, through a variety of sort of, channels and magic and hard work and much, just the universe coming together in the right way. I was able to join Art Blakey's band in 1989. It was my first major gig. And I wanted to talk about Art Blakey a little bit and some of the other musicians that I was lucky enough to be around and be shaped by, and the things that I learned from them, which I now, want to try to share and pass on and embody however I can. Art Blakey's thing was just about playing hard. I mean, giving 1,500%. I know that's mathematically not possible, but every time he played, it was like he would really say things to us like, play like it's your last day on earth, play like you got a gun to your head. It's very, really, powerful kind of statements like that. But it was really, that's the way he played. Every time he sat at the drums, it was like an incredible, I felt like one of those astronauts on a moon rocket, blasting off with that much force underneath you. He was never loud, though. He was loud, but he never got in the way. He was a very excellent accompanist, even at the sort of extreme volumes that he played drums at. I also learned a lot from Art Blakey about getting a good balance between entertainment and entertaining and art, because sometimes, and everyone has their own recipe for that, and some people are like, I don't entertain, I just, I do my art and that's it, and that's cool. Others are more on the entertainment side of things, and it's all kind of a big show on stage, and Art, he knew how to balance that in a really healthy way. I felt the music itself was energetic and entertaining just to listen to, and then he would get up and he'd talk to the audience. He would engage. He'd break that fourth wall, which I find really, really important to do in my own music, in my own stage presentation. He was also really good at reading the audience. He could look out in the audience and see if they were, getting antsy, if we played too many new tunes or something, like they wanted to hear the hits. He'd say, okay, Moanin', boom, or Blues March or something like that. He would always be able to gauge kind of the needs of the audience in whatever particular venue we were in. And he just had that big, giant beat. That beat, you can hear it on the records. It pops right off the records. You can even listen to it on YouTube, and you can just hear the power and just the swing factor, that beat got itself just written into my cells, just stitched into my DNA. And even 30 something years later, I can still feel that. beat in me when I play, and when I play with other drummers. And sometimes drummers, they'll be really creative and really interesting, but a little bit on the lighter side, and it just is frustrating. I'm just like, come on, man, just can you stomp on it a little bit? I gotta, I need to feel that thing. And he also used to say, I'm looking at my notes over here off camera, but he also say, if you're going to make a mistake, make it loud, so you don't make it the next time. But commit. The idea of committing, really, to what you're playing, even if it's wrong, but just do it. The next major gig I had was with the trumpet player Art Farmer from 1991 to about 1995, and he was a very different kind of gig. It was much more like playing maybe with a vocalist in terms of the approach to accompanying. It was more delicate. It was not that all vocalists are delicate, but it required more kind of intricate kind of comping. It wasn't all just about the power and volume and the beat. It was a lot more about, like, how do I give Art Farmer a nice setting to play in, it was one thing I got from Art Farmer. Again, I spent about 5 years in his band. He was always looking ahead. He did all his stuff that he did historically, back in the day, and he would play certain tunes. He still played I Remember Clifford by Benny Golson. He played that every night. He would play songs like Soul Eyes by Mel Waldron. He'd play a couple of Horace Silver tunes, but he was really always looking for new material. So he would ask the younger musicians in the band to write him tunes. So we would write tunes. Like, I wrote about half a dozen tunes for Art, and he would play them. He played everything. He played them on the gigs. He recorded tunes of mine and tunes by Ron Blake and Tom Harrell and Kenny Davis and different people that came through the band. Always on the lookout for new sounds, and he was a very nice guy, very soft-spoken, nice guy. Again, personality, very different kind of personality from Art Blakey. Art was very kind of brash and, all, kind of all in all the time. And Art was kind of quiet. You never always knew what he was thinking, but I figured he kept calling me. I must have been doing something right, because he kept, calling me back for gigs. Another musician that is just a hero of mine that followed Art Farmer's gig a few years down the road was Ray Brown. I played in Ray Brown's trio for 3 years, from 1997 to just the beginning of 2000. Ray Brown was the first musician that I worked with that I knew that, without using the word brand, he delineated the idea of having a brand as a musician. Because I remember we were in the car coming back from a gig. I think it was from Jazz Alley one night in Seattle, and we were talking about other kinds of music, and we were there was some hip hop on the radio, and I said, Ray, you ever think about doing other stuff? And Ray said, Jeff, he said, at this point in my career, and I think Ray was about 65, 66 or 7 years old. He said, people want to hear a certain thing. When people come to a Ray Brown show, they want to hear Ray Brown do the thing that they know. He says, at this point, I'm not going to do something completely different, So the idea of creating a sound and a brand and a concept that people are familiar with and learn to love and identify as your thing, So that was what Ray was very much into. And he wrote all the arrangements too. It was Ray's band, Ray's charts, Ray's tunes, Ray's sound, and I did my best to fit in with it. And it was a lot of fun. And sometimes I was kind of trying to push, well, in my 27-year-old way, trying to rebel a little bit, trying to just kind of feel the edge of that band stylistically. Where could I go? Could I take it out? Could I play some out stuff? Could I, and it didn't matter what I did. Ray had my back 100% all the time, musically. That beat of his sound, his choice of notes, the melodic bass lines, you know, if I wanted to go out, like play outside of the scales or something, try to play a little avant-garde, he's just like, okay. He just went there with me, you know. It didn't matter to him. There was nothing I could play that could throw him off in any way, you know. It 100%, you know, one of really the greatest bass player I ever played with, and for so many great reasons, and so grateful to have had that experience. We made a record called Live at Starbucks, which a lot of people know. And it was recorded in one night at an actual Starbucks in Seattle. And the audience was all invited guests. They were all Starbucks corporate people. You know, it wasn't really open to the public, but it was more or less a live recording. Also, Ray, he was very disciplined. And he had a routine. The idea of having a discipline, or having discipline and having a routine as a traveling musician on the road was something that it made an impression on me, because Ray, no matter where we were in the world on the road, he'd always get up about 6 a.m, make his calls. You know, he'd call. I mean, we had an agent, but he really did most of it himself. He was just calling venues for like 2 or 3 hours every day in the morning. And then he would go out and play a round of golf, have some lunch, come home and take a nap, and get up and play the gig at night. And that was his routine day after day. But it worked for him, and it was very disciplined. He wasn't all over the place, you know. And the next musician that made a real big impression on me, and continues to, still to this day, is Diane Reeves. Let me talk about Diane Reeves. What an incredible, incredible voice. I never got to play with John Coltrane, you know, but I played with Freddie Hubbard one time, maybe 2 times. But Diane puts that energy out there. She's like you know, what I imagine being on stage with Coltrane would have felt like, you know, just that incredible force and energy. We were doing a gig one time, and she has a song on a record of hers called Good Day. Today's Gonna Be a Good Day. And on the record is Russell Malone playing kind of like some country blues guitar kind of stuff. And it's super happening, but it's like, it's a real guitaristic kind of thing. And Diane sings over, it's kind of a, you know, gospel-y kind of tent, you know, thing. And we were on the gig, and we didn't have guitar on the gig, so it was just me, like on our roads. And she goes, yeah, do that, you know, play that intro like Russell plays. And I went, oh my gosh, I don't really, you know, I'm looking at the piano going, I don't really know how to do that. And I said, you know, Diane, I don't know. I'm sorry, but this isn't really my bag. And she just laughed, and she looked at me and she goes, Jeff, man, it's just a song. You know, it's just a tune, man. Just play. I went, oh, well, all right, you know. And I did my best, but it was just that idea, like, don't get the message, the takeaway from it, you know, the message I got from that real brief interaction, that one sentence sort of thing that wiped out my whole, you know, idea that I couldn't do it. You know, she's like, it's just a song. And I thought to myself, well, I'm going to make it work and use whatever resources I have. I mean, okay, it's blues. I can play the blues. I know how to do that. It's got a beat to it. I've got a beat. I know how to play a blues with a beat. So, you know, like, it was like, Jeff, get over yourself, get over your hangups and just play the music. And I was like, yes, great. Love it. Will do. Another musician that made a really big impression. I will come back and answer some of these. I love the comments that are popping up, and I'll maybe, when I get finished, I've got a few more musicians I want to talk about, and then I'll go through some of the questions on here. But Jim Hall, the guitarist Jim Hall, beautiful, beautiful human being, really, really creative, thinker, deep thinker kind of musician, you know. Jim's whole thing, and it took me a while to figure out what he wanted, because he didn't hire me and say, you know, here's the list of what I want you to do. You know, here's the 10 points. This is, how you play with Jim Hall. It was just duet. Here you go. Get up on stage. He hired me. The first thing we did together was a week at the Village Vanguard duo. And I went, okay, great. I've never played with Jim Hall before. I've heard some of the records, obviously. I did my homework, as I do always with anyone I'm playing with. I try to learn their music learn as much about their music and as many of their tunes as I can. But Jim's just like, hey, let's just play. So we played the first set Tuesday night, and after the set, we come off the stage, and we're back by the kitchen, and he goes, yeah, Jeff, yeah, sure sounds great, man. Really dig what you're doing, but maybe you could just thin it out a little bit, just back off a little. I went, oh, okay. I guess I was overplaying, So next set, I tried to play less. I tried to back off. Same comment, rephrased. Said, yeah, man, yeah, really sound great, man. Maybe tomorrow we can find a way to leave a little more space, Oh, okay. All right. More space. Okay, cool. Came back Wednesday night. Same thing. I tried to leave more space. Jim still wanted more space. He wanted me to play less and less and less. And he kept asking over and over in different ways, as if to find a way to get, to drive the message home, but without ever being mean about it. He was just really, really complimentary. Yeah, man, really basically like what you're doing, but I just need to hear myself a little bit better. So, and after about 3 nights of this, I'm going home. I'm tearing my hair out going, what am I doing wrong here? What is it he wants? What am I not, and I'm realizing, okay, I'm still approaching the piano pianistically. I'm trying to do everything, do stuff with my left hand, do stuff with my right hand, play chords, play lines, play bass lines, play and I realized finally he didn't want any of that. He didn't want anything pianistic. He hired a piano player, but he didn't want me to sound like a piano player. What he really liked was I guess, the melodic approach I had, the harmonic concept and contrapuntal kind of stuff. He really wanted contrapuntal, lines, like a single line sort of conversations, and really free playing and really spacious playing. And it was kind of new to me playing that way. I love it. It was fun, but I didn't know what to do at first. But I really appreciated, and I think we finally got to a place where it worked for him and he was happy with what I was doing. But what I really took away from that, other, beyond just the musical, the education I got, was just how to treat a fellow musician with kindness. Because I've been in other situations with musicians I will not name, because they're great musicians and I still respect them as musicians. I still love their music, but as people, they weren't very nice to me. Where that wasn't the case, there wasn't that consideration taken for hey, you're a human being. Let me find a way to ask you for what I want and still be nice. So I really appreciated that. Similarly, when I met Herbie Hancock, and this is the last musician I'm going to talk about right now, although there's been many others who have imparted many great things that I've, taken with me. But I first met Herbie Hancock when I was 18, and I met him at the Blue Note. He was playing with this trio with Buster Williams and Al Foster. And I said, man, I got to get right up there. As soon as he walks off the stage, this is my only chance to talk to Herbie. I'm going to catch him before, because that from the piano to the stairs to the dressing room is about 5 paces. And if you want to, catch him, you got to catch him right there. So he walks down off the stage. I had no idea what kind of personality Herbie had. I didn't know whether he was going to brush me off or what. And I said, Mr. Hancock, I'm Geoff Keezer. I'm a piano player. Can I ask you just 3 really quick questions? And he goes, oh yeah, sure. And really? Yeah, what? Yeah. So I go, okay, I had him ready. I said, okay, what is the real chords on the last 4 bars of Dolphin Dance? What are the real the chord changes there. And what's the real turnaround on Footprints? The song by Wayne Shorter. And third, what is that voicing on "I the Hurricane"? That that chord. And he goes, "Oh, what? Here." And he takes me up on stage and sits back down at the piano. And he'd only been off stage for about 4 minutes. And people, you know how it is. It's crowded. People are paying their tabs and getting up and leaving and putting their coats on and stuff. Herbie just walks right back up on stage, sits down at the piano. I'm standing next to him, and he starts showing me all this stuff and explaining. And for, he shows me Delphin notes. It's like, E flat sus. It's an A flat diminished with a major 7 over E flat, or A flat diminished 9 over E flat. And then that third chord is an A flat major 7 sharp 5 with the E flat in the bass. Right? I'm getting a little bit technical here, but I wanted to, just show you what he showed me. And then he says, "Yeah, I had a hurricane. Yeah. What I was doing?" He said, back in those days, and he's talking about the 60s. He said, I lived in this building, an apartment building in New York, and I used to just sit at the piano all day and just look at it sometimes and just experiment and guess how things would sound, sometimes just by looking at the piano visually. And he said, I was messing around with diminished chords one day, and I stacked them up. I took an F diminished chord, and then I put a G diminished chord on top. And I guess my hands are getting a little bit out of the range, but I put an A, you can hear that, an A diminished chord on top of that. So triple diminished chord. And then he said, I started pulling out notes out of each one. So he said, I took the A flat and the D from the F diminished chord. I took the G, B flat, C sharp, or D flat from the G diminished chord, and just that F sharp from the A diminished. And that's the sound. Then you put that on the bottom, the F and the C on the bottom. So, he gave me a full, like a 10-minute private lesson. No money, didn't charge me anything, no ego. It wasn't like, hey kid, these are my secrets. You know what I mean? And so that really, still to this day, I'm still blown away by that. And I feel like anytime anybody asks me after a gig what I played, if I can remember what I played or has any questions about anything I do, I try to duplicate that experience for that person, because I'm like, look, Herbie did this for me. Chick Corea was the same way. Chick would just sit down right at the, at the piano, right on stage, and just show you stuff, listen to you play back for you, just completely egoless, incredible. So those are my stories. Those people and others have made me who I am today, musically and humanistically. Got a few minutes, but I'm going to look back through some of the comments and see if there's any questions. Let's see. Yes, Diane Reeves, incredible. Yeah, so I mean, that's really it. I can tell you a little bit about what I'm working on quickly. I didn't make any records during, the first 2 years of COVID, but I did do a project recently. And I really wanted to just get together and get in the studio without too much fuss, without too much preparation, although I did make some charts. I wrote some new tunes, but they're not super, super hard, I wanted to get together with some friends and just make some good music. And I'm calling the record Playdate, because I have a 4-year-old, and we're always talking as parents about getting our kids together for play dates, mostly outside now, but the record's going to be called Playdate. It features Shedrick Mitchell on organ. I've never done a record with piano and organ before, and I thought that would be fun. I can play some B3. I've done it on studio sessions and stuff, but if I want the real deal, I got to hire an expert. So I got Shedrick, Ron Blake, my longtime collaborator, both originally with Art Farmer and then with the Christian McBride Band for a long time. Ron Blake on sax, Richie Goods on bass, who's my neighbor up here in upstate New York. Kendrick Scott on drums, and a young guitarist named Ayushi Karnik, and also Nir Felder on guitar as well. So that's it. We did a bunch of tunes. The record's going to come out in the fall, probably late summer, fall. And yeah, that's it. It's going to be on vinyl and download, limited CD run, but I love vinyl. So that's that. Oh, and next week, if you're in New York, or it's going to be streaming as well on Thursday night. Next Thursday and Friday, I'm participating in a Chick Corea tribute concert at Lincoln Center, which is an incredible honor for me. I get to play in the electric band. I get to be Chick. I get to play Chick's part in the electric band, which is incredible for me because I grew up listening to that music and learning these arrangements. It's beyond an honor. It's huge, and I'm going to do my best and try to hang in there. So that's about it. Let me see if there's any questions. If you want to check out my website, geoffreykeezer.com. Tour dates, the ones that are still there are there. Some have been postponed, but there's a few hanging on, and we're happy for that. And I also have, can I give you one more website? openstudiojazz.com. I do piano lessons, piano courses online there, Open Studio Jazz. And that is the company that was founded by the great pianist Peter Martin. And I'm really happy to be part of the faculty on there. It's a great bunch of cats and some really interesting courses. They've got everything from really beginning entry-level stuff to more advanced stuff, all the different instruments, everything being in between. So definitely encourage you to check that out. And yeah, thank you very much for having me. It's an honor to be here. I could maybe play 2 minutes of something. Maybe I'll do that. Play a really quick tune for you guys. This is one I always like to play, and it's composed by Stevie Wonder. It's called These Three Words, and the 3 words are probably the best 3 words you can say in the English language to someone that you love. So here it is. Okay, thank you.